A couple of videos ago, someone who watched, I think, all my videos, and you maybe uses some of the ideas in their camper, asked, you know, what's been working and what hasn't. So what I thought I'd do is I would take some of the most recent changes and additions that I've done to the camper, most of them pretty recent, but a few within the last year. And now we've put, just on this trip, and we're only halfway done, almost 2,000 miles using those things. I think to point out how it's been, and overall it's gone pretty good. So one of the two best things that has worked out that we've done, and this one is very recent, was the composting toilet. I'll also take and put a video link in the description of the complete build so that you could see it and know how it was done. But I'm not going to open it up for you at this point because it's been in use. But we found that it works really good. I've had to empty the solid waste bag once, and that was after about 2 weeks, and I could have waited a lot longer, but we just decided to get rid of it so it wouldn't be too heavy to carry around to get to the location where we were dumping it. It has a separator for urine, and it's electric to a certain extent. 2 switches. The little round one in the rear, you push it, it's a momentary switch, and it washes the basin, rinses it out. And then the switch that's forward is just a rocker switch, and that turns on a fan. And I thought we'd have to use the fan more than we have, but we found that this toilet has not had any odor at all, none, while in use or after or when it's been setting. As you can see in that little oval Redenbacher container, I keep it filled with sawdust from the shop because I do a lot of woodworking, as you can see. And this thing has been great. The only thing we have to do to alter it is that the height, the stays inside are 18.5 inches, so the whole thing is probably 20 inches tall. And have to do that to get the, get everything to fit inside the bucket and so forth. But what I need to do is to make a couple of little foot pads, maybe about 3 inches or 4 inches tall, for the wife. She looks a little funny sitting on it with her feet off the ground. But this thing has really, really worked well. So glad I made it. We used to have a small 4-foot white plastic table. You've seen them, and the legs kind of like swing out and they lock in place. And I used to keep it underneath in the garage in the back of the camper. But I ran into a guy who had 1/4 inch diamond plate aluminum. And I managed to get a piece, and the price was really good. He just had a whole bunch of pieces and was looking to sell them. And this is what I made. And I will also put a link to the complete build of having done it. When traveling, it folds down and it swings up and it locks in place. And according to the Amazon, the little things that lift it up and hold it will hold about 600 pounds. So I'm not going to test it, but it's certainly strong enough for my cook stove and a kettle and a few other things. It's got these locking brackets where you just push on that little lever right there and it flips down. And one thing I did at the end that wasn't even in the video is down here at the bottom, I put a little block of wood in there and then I pinch the ends together so that when it drops, try to make it so you can see it good. Yeah, I know this is moving all around. It presses into plate. It sort of squashes into those little pinch together things in the end. And that way, it doesn't move. I did have a little bungee cord going over it, but I did that, and now I don't need to do that. This has been wonderful. And if you don't look really close, it looks like it blends in with the side. Super addition. Underneath here is the garage. And let me take and lift the cover. And the only reason I have this cover on here is so when it's down, it's a little bit long and it hangs over the edge. So if we leave the doors open, it won't rain on the edge there. So the garage now has 2 floors. This piece of plywood originally wasn't on it. Now the reason I did that is that we have an awning that goes on the back. And that awning we used to keep inside. I used to have to take it out every time we stopped. I used to sometimes put it under the bed. But what a pain it was to get it in and out. And it was too wide to fit under here. So I rebuilt the awning and I made it so it was collapsible. And I will show you how I did that. I will post the video below again. That shows how I did it, and it was almost a rebuild of it. So it was almost like making a new awning, even though I used a lot of the old parts. So you can see how it's made. And I also store this little collapsible table under there. We used to put our coffee on when we're sitting outside. But in order to make everything as compact and fit, I built this little false shelf. The awning slides inside now that it collapses. The little table happens to fit in there too. And I could do that because remember the white table from that I used to carry instead of the flip up one that I made? It used to go in there, but now it was about 2 or 3 inches, 3 or 4 inches thick. And now that we don't have that, I could raise this up because we still have enough room for the rug and a couple chairs and whatever else we want to put in there. Something new that we did, about a year ago now, is I took these lights and put them on after I removed the old square ones that were up there. Now these lights are pretty interesting. Let me contrast them to this one, which has been up here a while. This one recesses inside the ceiling a little bit. It's LED. It's got a little switch on it. It's been great. It's our Galley light. These two are the everyday lights. This is a piece of dense plexiglass or glass, I'm not sure, with stainless on both sides. And that's it. There's no back to this light. Well, there's a back to it, but there's nothing that goes up in the ceiling. 2 wires come out and connect, and you push them up in a little hole in the ceiling. And then there are 3 screws that have caps over them that hold it up. And it's daylight now, but these are very bright. And there's another one over here on the back side. Okay, one great thing about this light is if you hold your finger on it, it dims. You hold it again, it turns it off. And if you touch it once, it's light blue. And this really is nice at night. We leave one on like this as a night light. And a touch again, and it comes on bright. And of course, it also works with a light switch on the wall, and it comes back to its original brightness when you turn it back on. And something else that is new for this year is these little baskets. And I'm not going to put a link for those because I'm not selling anything on Amazon. Then I didn't make it. But if you search for little baskets like this, you'll see dozens of different styles and kinds. I chose these because they have 2 pockets. There's a pocket on the end. And it had a compartment that looked like it was stiff the way the wire was made. Some of the wires are just like a coat hanger type thing in the back. It has these hooks on the side, which I don't need. But I chose it for these other reasons. And Joyce also has one over here for her personal things, like her coffee crisps and her Nutri-Grain bars and her wheat thins and her flashlight.
Hi.
All important stuff, right, Joyce?
Yes.
Yes. Another small thing, but it's been so nice. I wanted some white hooks because we have white walls. So I ordered some white hooks, but I didn't realize that they were just so nice. They're kind of like rubber coated, and there are sizes that they come fairly large to medium to smaller, and some tiny ones. And they've come in so handy. For example, I've now hung my cutting board. These baskets are hung this way. We finally got our cups off the counter, so they're not flying around everywhere. I did have to bend the hook out a little bit for those handles, but they stay put. And they've been really handy. I'm so glad I got them. I'm using a little bit of the bigger ones and some of the smaller ones, but they're so good, and they hold really good in this wall board. I just have to be careful not to put too many holes in the walls. I got to be careful where I put stuff. I searched high and low for a decent blender and came up with this one. And so far, it's been really good. It has a button that you can press, and it will blend for 20 seconds, either full blend or do a pulsating up and down, up and down. It makes about 2 cups of whatever you're doing. And I've thrown a whole banana and some sliced peaches and some almonds and a few other things in there, and it just grinds them up. It doesn't seem to have any trouble at all, or nothing phases it. So that's been very good. It charges via USB, and it has a magnetic charger on it that hits right there and snaps in place. And it does have lithium battery in it, and it's quite heavy. And this plastic bottle is thick. It almost feels like thick glass. So I'm very pleased with it. And if we get some longevity out of it, I'll be happy. And we're in smoothie heaven. Okay. Another thing that we've actually replaced with this is an Anker speaker. It's Bluetooth. It's got lithium batteries in it. It connects wired also. I had a cheaper unit that was a Shark, and it did amazingly well for the price. Anker has a sort of a middle of the road policy. It's not Bose, but it doesn't have a number 10 price either. And it's not some cheap speaker that would have a number 2 price. It's more of a number 5 price, but I think you get 7 or 8 sound out of it. I really like Anker products. I have several different ones. You get a lot of quality for the buck. And this one is quite hefty. It weighs about as much as a brick. And it's probably mostly because of battery. And sometimes you'll pick one up in a department store of another brand, and it feels like styrofoam. So this has been really good. And let me show you kind of what it sounds like. I'm viewing this, and trust me, it just doesn't sound like it does in person. It actually sounds pretty good. Something small, but it does work. Pool noodle in the microwave keeps the turning plate intact. It doesn't fall, doesn't do anything, and the plate doesn't bounce all over the place. It works really good. This is a larger pool noodle though. For those of you with small minimalist campers like mine, I have everything 12 volt and only 110 volt when I need to run something like the microwave, but once in a while I need 110 volts. Two of the things I need are for my laptop charger. My MacBook is older and I can't get a 12 volt charger for it, so it has to go into 110. And this curly cord here is for my Norelco razor. And that razor is older and it doesn't hold the charge more than about a week, so I got to charge it up, but it still works good. And I don't like the new one, so I'm going to keep it. So this is a 400 watt full sine wave inverter, and it takes in the 12 volts, turns it into 110. It's got a little switch down here at the bottom so I can turn it on and off. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a small fan. And it has 4 USB ports that work even if you don't have the inverter turned on. And I like the switch because I don't want the inverter turned on all the time, because inverters inherently, even if you're not using them to charge things, take power. And I don't want to do that. I just want it on when I want to charge something, and I turn it off immediately. But these charging ports right here all work. So not only do I have my charging ports that I've always had here, but now I've got 4 of them, and 2 of them are higher amperage, 2.1 for like an iPad, and the 1 amp, so like for our phone or our Apple Watches and other things. And something else that's worked out really well is my tangent trailer leveler that I made instead of purchasing one. We only had to use it a couple of times, but in those 2 times we've used it, it has worked. For those people who have a trailer, you know as well as I do that everything bounces around all over the place, all the time. It would be interesting to be back here sitting at the back end when we go over some of the rough roads we do. I can't even imagine what it would be like, because sometimes it's a disaster when we come back in. And one problem is drawers and cupboards, and keeping them closed, and keeping them closed so stuff just doesn't fly up all over the place, projectiles everywhere. There are lots of ways of doing it. They sell special latches and locks, and they work really good. They can be very expensive, some of the good ones. There are some odd ways of doing it. Now, I saw a guy online who did a very good idea. He had a set of drawers, vertical drawers, and he had handles that were like hoop handles, and he just put a round dowel through the handles from the top to the bottom, and it kind of held the drawers in. Some people will put a lock with a key or a latch, but it's really hard to do because not every drawer or cabinet is made the same. So I have one solution that we used to use, and we still do, but I think I found one that I really, really like. Take this cabinet, for instance. It has a lift over here, which is great, but it also has one of these, which is a baby lock. The little latch is right in here. You close it, and it doesn't open, and that's great. We also have one for a very large drawer, but the drawer is so big that it breaks. And this works good, except for one thing. It does open some, so sometimes small things will fall out, or if nothing else, everything will bang up against it, fall into the area that it's open. So when we do open it, it all falls out onto the ground. So you go in here, we push on it, and it opens up. But I want to show you something else I've done. Look right under here. There's a knob, and that knob turns. And it turns into a threaded insert that's screwed into the wood. So there's a threaded brass insert in there. And up here, I have a piece of metal that I've fashioned so that when I close this, it slides around that bolt, and I screw the knob in. And if I screw it in and put a little pressure on it, that's locked. Unscrew the knob a little bit, and the cabinet with the latch on the side, which is what we've left, now opens up. Now, for this large drawer, I've done it too, but it's in a different place. If I open up this cabinet and reach underneath, the threaded insert is underneath and it screws up into a hole in the drawer. And when it's closed and that is screwed inside, there's no way it can open at all. Now, this method works really good, and I make my own knobs, and it takes literally, for a drawer like this, it takes 15 minutes to make one and to install it. The one up there that I made the metal hasp takes a little bit longer, but there are several ways you can keep drawers closed, keep cabinet doors closed, and of course, they're all made differently. Some have wider lips, some don't. So each one has to be made kind of according to the way that it is constructed. I'm planning on doing a very short video very soon on how I make the knobs and the different applications that you can use to hold your cabinet shut. May not be for everybody, but I really like them. So those are just a few of the modifications that we've made into the camper, and things we've added also. And I just thought I'd post this quick video to point out and answer that question of, did they work? And yes, they did. Some a little better than others, but they're all working and will stay into effect until I find something better. Thanks for watching.